Hello, this is Yomotgurum. Kia has released a very interesting car in the United States market. It's the K4 hatchback, but here's the thing, this car isn't sold in Korea. It's disappointing. The design's initial reveal also caused a stir in Korea. So it's just too bad, because even if this car came to Korea, it would definitely sell. So today, I'll be comparing the Hyundai Avante and the Kia K4 hatchback purely from a design perspective. We'll be looking at the front, side, rear, and even the interior. As United States sales begin, official high-resolution images are now released. Some of you might be wondering, are we really comparing a hatchback and a sedan? But as you know, it's really hard to see hatchbacks in Korea. Let's compare it to its competitor, the Avante, starting with the Avante's design. This is not a poorly made car. When the Avante debuted, many people wondered, is this really possible at this price? But the K4 hatchback is really well made, almost unbelievably so. Then let's start by comparing the front ends. As I mentioned earlier, the Avante has such an aggressive design that you might wonder, is it really possible to have this kind of design at this price point? When I first saw the sharp DRLs, the angular wedge-shaped silhouette, and the front end packed with sharp patterns, I couldn't help but say, wow, this looks futuristic. But as time went by, I got much more used to it. That sharp look can be a bit tiring to see after a while. On the other hand, Kia K4 has a slightly softer look. By reducing the sharp angles and using vertical DRLs, it makes the car look lower and wider. The proportions of the top and bottom are different. The top is slimmer, while the bottom has a heavier, more solid feel. If Avante stands out with its sharp character lines, K4 wins with its proportions and use of space. So when I look at this front view, I think, I won't get tired of looking at this even after a long time. So to sum up the front ends of the two cars, Avante is aggressive, younger, and has a sharp style. On the other hand, K4 is more relaxed, giving off a mature vibe and shows a confident face. They each have their own unique charm. Now let's compare the side designs. This is where the real charm of a hatchback starts to show. The side design of the Avante has the proportions of a typical sedan with a clearly defined trunk. The character line creates endless tension the more you look at it. It really suits the city well, so you could say it's the perfect example of a sedan for commuting in the city. This kind of design has a silhouette that naturally appeals more to younger people than to middle-aged or older adults. On the other hand, when it comes to the K4 hatchback, this is what comes to mind first. This is European style, just like that. The roofline slopes downward at the back, continuing smoothly past the C-pillar. This is exactly what I mean. It's like the wind is compressed and flows smoothly toward the back. The rear fender has a lot of volume, so it feels like the car is being pushed from behind. That's why the Kia K4 looks even cooler when it's in motion than in still photos. This is all thanks to the unique and attractive design of a hatchback. But if you look closely, the C-pillar area is highlighted. The Avante features a typical triangular sedan structure. The K4 has a more angular boxy shape, but toward the back it flows longer, creating tension as if the wind gathers at the front and sweeps to the rear. This is exactly the charm of hatchback design. Now let's compare the rear designs as well. Of course, the key point of the rear design is the taillight design. In the case of the Avante, the taillight stretches across both sides, giving the impression of an elongated H, which represents Hyundai. So you can definitely feel the stability that a sedan should have. At first, these sharp lines felt fresh, but now they feel a bit familiar. On the other hand, honestly speaking, the hatchback design of K4 is kind of crazy. This is almost like an SUV design. The long, vertically stretched tail lamps and the large area of the tailgate are this big. So it has the overwhelming practicality unique to hatchbacks. The height is low like a sedan, but if you look at the interior space, you'll see, this is basically an SUV. Since this part isn't blocked by a frame like in a sedan, you can even sleep in the car depending on the situation. Also, if you fold the second row, you get a large cargo space just like an SUV. So, with the hatchback design, you can get good driving performance like a low sedan, and in terms of space, it's comparable to the highly practical SUV. However, in Korea, these design elements actually become a disadvantage. That's why it's called the graveyard of hatchbacks. That's why the Kia K4 isn't released in Korea. I find this really disappointing. What about the interior? It also has a unique character. In the case of the Avante, it's designed to be driver-oriented. If you look at the center console, you can see a design that protects the driver well, like this. The mix of physical buttons and digital controls is great. It's not flashy, but it's intuitive and very convenient once you try it. So, I think the standard for domestic car interiors isn't the Grandeur or the Sonata, but the Avante. On the other hand, the K4 takes a more trendy approach. While the Avante's display is curved, the K4 has a horizontal dashboard with a single long panel. What's especially different from the Avante is that there's a 5-inch climate control display in the middle. On top of that, it offers a more stylish interior space with two-tone colors, and the seats also come in two-tone, giving it an even more sophisticated feel. So if the Avante is the classic choice, the K4 feels a bit more trendy. With the K4 now unveiled in the United States, response was strong, and the United States price has finally been announced. The base model starts at $16,000, while the Grand Touring model is just under $30,000. Given the high exchange rate, that's roughly 3,850,000 to 4,400,000 won, nearly the price of a Sonata in Korea. Meanwhile, the Avante's domestic price starts at 25 million won, with the N-line just over 30 million won. Now, it seems like the domestic price is the most reasonable globally. If the domestic K4 is released, I think its price will be similar to the Avante, which makes it an even more regrettable car. So, to conclude this video, the K4 hatchback has a design that people would really like right now. Until now, hatchbacks released domestically haven't looked this cool. It's even more disappointing that it's not coming to the domestic market. If it could be released domestically, there would finally be a real alternative to the Avante. If you could choose between the Avante and the K4 hatchback, let me know in the comments which one you prefer. Then I'll see you next time with an even better video. Thank you. If this was helpful, please give it a like. Subscribe and enable notifications for fast, accurate new car updates. Thank you.